Alrighty, good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Yesterday, some pretty good opportunities. We were pretty ambivalent in terms of direction of the market, given the fact that we've been playing inside of this big thing that we've been talking about. I'm not even going to talk about it anymore, right? We're trading in a really choppy area in the market right now. And so when we came in yesterday, there really was no strong bias one way or the other. Obviously, if we hold above Hopeful, we hold above our moving averages on the short time frames. That's a clue for the bulls, or vice versa for the bears. And as you can see, it was a very kind of messy day. But despite that, still all the major rotations in the chart are right off the roadmap level. So I wanted to go through and just show you what happened for me here this morning or yesterday morning. If you guys remember, we had I believe Powell started speaking yesterday at 10 a.m. We have the same thing this morning, by the way. It's almost like Groundhog's Day because we're back kind of where we opened. They're just a little bit below where we opened yesterday. Still in the middle of the big range with Powell speaking at 30 minutes after the open. So we're sitting here, and I put my order in as we were breaking out through here, expecting that they would most likely come back to test the Hopeful there because of the previous swings here from the overnight session. We had the VWAP, we had our 200, we had our level sitting here at 60, 70 half, and the Hopeful just 2 ticks below it. So I quite literally put an order in the book at 69 half. So 1 tick below the Hopeful. And I'm not making this up. I mean, it came in, it filled me, it came down 1 tick through my entry, and then came right up and filled all my targets. So I made money on the way up, took my final profit right in front of 60.78, and then that was it. So got a really good trade. This all happened within microseconds. And it filled me on some of the other exits in here a little bit further past where they were supposed to be filled. So I made a little bit more money than I was maybe supposed to. And to be honest with you, I kind of got lucky because I recognized we were pulling into that 10 a.m. hour. And you always know right around that 30 minutes after the open, there's a jump in volatility. But I just left it in there. And sure enough, that ended up becoming a really good trade. And interestingly enough, it gave you the hold from our first roadmap level area, all right, to the next roadmap level area, and then that was it. And then you can see they did pull back and then come up and then hold the back end of the roadmap level and start to come down, but then they came back around, used it to the tick for the bounce, and then that began the push out. So did I hold on for a 50-point runner the rest of the day? No. It came back, and I think I might have had one runner that stopped out at break even. So that was kind of a lucky little situation. They very well could have flushed this down through Hopeful and the VWAP and the roadmap level and taken me out for a bigger loss than I wanted as well. But that's how the cookie crumbled for me yesterday. And then as we continued in that bullish direction, again, you saw the parries off of the roadmap levels here. But a little aggressive because at that point, it was a little ambivalent as to what was going to happen here, right? So I don't think I would have been buying right there. But once we broke out, you then got your opportunities. So what was the first opportunity? That was that pullback right into the fast-moving average with the bullish divergences on each test. So you had that, and how much risk did you really have to take on when it came in? Quite literally a tick, if that. It might have not even gone more, might have just hit it to the tick there and never went through. So no risk, brought you right to our next roadmap level for a good nearly 10-point push, and you could have held on for 10 points there, just a little bit beyond the roadmap level. But do notice that if we're pushing up into the close of the day before and a major roadmap level within a point of each other, a couple ticks, I'd be taking profit in front of there because we do see the market very often kind of rally back up into the close of the day before and then fail right off of it. And remember, we don't know what's going to happen next. All we have is kind of our history and our memory of what typically happens in the market. And in my opinion, that would have been a very prudent area to take your profit. Of course, it did pop through a little bit further and came up to our little unofficial kind of in-between roadmap level that we had on the charts for months now. So it came right to that. And then this would have been your next best opportunity for your bullish play, and that was the long off the 200. So, and look at that divergence as we came down into the 200 here. First of all, that first test, one tick in front, major divergence, but that is my favorite pattern right there. Just your typical bullish divergence pattern on the pullback into a major roadmap or a good roadmap level of support. So that would have been a beautiful opportunity. You took one tick of heat, and you should have been able to get a little bit scalp out of it from 85 to 87 for your 2-pointer. And then maybe got your 3-4-pointer out of it, but then that was it. So here's an example of, hey, look, everything's working out nicely. We're not taking on a lot of risk. We come into that good long opportunity. It's the first test of the 200, really, ever since the crossover happened. And you got yourself a little bit. You should have been able to get a 3-4-pointer out of it if you have that type of target set up, but then it came back. And that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? You have a perfect long opportunity over here. You have a perfect long opportunity over here. You make good money on both. And then the third one that looks really sexy gives you a scalp and then comes back, right? So that's the reality of trading. It's not going to work every time, but we get the pullback. And notice, this is another thing I keep noticing around these roadmap levels, is a lot of times we have a major level, in this case the 6089 SNR, and I've noticed, I said this like a week or two ago, a lot of times they've been coming up through the roadmap level, coming back to bounce through it, and then they push through by like not just a tick or two, but they do go through 3-4 points through it. And then next thing you know, it comes back, and then it holds the back end of that discrete level multiple times and then fails from there. So I've seen this happening pretty often lately, where we kind of go right through a major level and then come back, and then it becomes resistance after that. In fact, 6105 half, if you guys recall, that major move of a level was exactly the same thing, where we came up all the way through it, and then we came back down and then failed off the back end of it. I don't know how many times here, in the last couple days. So just kind of an interesting observation that happened once again from there. And then on the pullback, notice what happened here. We came right to the roadmap level. That was basically the support all morning, and that was the scene of the next bounce. So, near the tick rotations here, that's how I got in. Basically at the low of the move and out of the high of the move perfectly here. And then we got the break. Once it held the roadmap level to the tick, again, a long opportunity here. You had your entry right there. There was bullish divergence. If you didn't get in off the level, and I do need to start talking about this, because yes, it's hard to blindly buy a level especially when you're in such a heavy market, at least on the short time frames. Very hard to go ahead and buy that. So what you can also do, this is again, I'm trying to teach you kind of how I think, is if I miss that major low, you always have that retracement back to about 50 to 61 of that leg, and then you get the breakout from there. So there's always that second opportunity. If you notice the divergence off the level, you notice a nice break through the FMA or one of the other moving averages, and then it starts to pull back. You do have that little 50% retracement, right? Because what do we have here? On the very micro scale, we have a bullish leg all the way up to 60.75 from what? 60.70 basically. So right around 60.72 half, right there is the 50%. Right? So there's the hold from the level. Bullish divergence bounces out, pulls back to 50%. You take on, again, how much risk? 2 or 3 ticks. And then there's the breakout from there. Right? So that was good. And then honestly, since we were starting to sell off here, I do think that this right here would have been another beautiful short opportunity yesterday off of the roadmap level at 79. There's 79 again. Right? That was the high of the morning. at the high of the news release or the beginning of Powell's speech. And you had a beautiful bearish divergence off the 200 and the roadmap level in what seems to be a pretty heavy little market there. And in this case, didn't work, right? In fact, you would have just kind of gotten a full stop out if you held on there. So again, here's an example of everything lining up, just like we saw maybe from over here, and it didn't work out, right? So it went right on through. And then eventually we got the pop to the new high, right? So 79 here, although we did kind of travel through it a couple times, you can still see in the grand scheme here how many times we come right into it and bounce off of it, right? This is the trouble area. Notice all the trouble right there. And then once we got up and through it, we pulled back again and then bounced out from there. So it does look messy, but if you really scrutinize the rotations, they're still coming right in, holding off the top end, holding behind it on the bottom end, and then getting above it and holding it to the push to the upside, right? Some other things that happened here yesterday that would have been a really good play would have been this break to the new high of the day, the pullback into the 200 here with a very extreme divergence. Now, this play, I was actually watching the screen when this happened. I was very tempted. I knew it was a risky trade. I knew it was very aggressive. But I was looking at this little play here, and I noticed as we pulled back right to the FMA, or getting close to it, I started seeing the beginnings of maybe a divergence here. I noticed that this was a major resistance. It is our roadmap level, so it has edge, and we had the FMA peeking into it. So I thought about it. I just thought it was a little too risky. I was already green for the day, but look at that, to the tick, and I would have got a scalp out of it, right? I would have got entered at 60.89, assuming it filled me, and I would have got my 2-point and my 4-point off, and then it came back. So would have got a nice scalp, but it is what it is. And then we get the pullback right to the 200 here. And notice on the pullback, they hold the back end of the FMA and then come into the 200 where we get this big bullish divergence from the low, right? This should be very, very obvious. Even in real time, as this is kind of meandering around, should be very obvious that we're pushing lower into the 200, but the RBI is much higher in comparison. And then from there, you get the next break. So really good long opportunity there. How much risk did you take? Quite literally 1 point of risk that gave you your next 15-point bounce, give or take. And that's basically how the day went. At the end of the day there, just kind of petered out. You got another play off the 200 for just about a 5-point bounce. And then we just kind of chopped out there at the end of the day. But I think the main thing here is sometimes luck is on your side and sometimes luck is not on your side. And remember, luck is not necessarily just a blind thing. As they say, what is it? It's where preparation meets opportunity. I believe that's the quote, right? So when you have your preparation right and you're coming into something with good opportunity, it's not luck, right? There's something, I know there's something to this level. I know that we have a lot of things lining up there. I know it's aggressive, but there you have it, right? Pretty much within the first half hour of the open, I'm done for the day, right? Because I had multiple accounts long from there. So that is it for our review. Obviously, in the last few hours in the overnight session, we've had a big sell-off. After the news drop, I believe we had CPI at an hour before the open here, right? And at the moment, before that happened, it did look like we were starting to potentially break out through the highs of the day before. We were coming all the way back. And if you look on the pullback here from yesterday's price action, it pulled back right into about 50% of yesterday's push and found support and then was coming all the way back to the highs. So when I was preparing my news report this morning, I was talking about seeing the bullish clues from this low and then talking about seeing if we could get through 98 and 05 half to confirm our bullish bias. And then what happened at 8:30? The whole thing dropped out. And now here we are, interestingly enough, my friends, finding support to the tick off 50% of last week. All right, so there's another long opportunity, big bullish divergence down there this morning, just about 30 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago. And then you even had the bounce to the tick off the roadmap level at 32.25. So you had each one, and this is another example where we have two roadmap levels nearly ticks apart, and they respect each one to the tick. So that brings us here to the close to the open, and as you can see now, they have gone ahead and started to pull back below 50% of last week, only to bounce 2 or 3 points lower right off the next roadmap area. So let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames now. We will go ahead and take a look at what the charts are showing now that we've got this big pullback going on.